Hello everyone and welcome back to the video by me, the WitcherGeorge. So today I'm going to be talking about something that I've been considering recently because I think it's one of the most difficult questions in The Witcher 3, or I should say in The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine expansion. Because this is one of those questions that I remember when I was doing my playthrough, I was really thinking, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? I could not think of what was the best answer, what was the best way to go about this. It was actually quite difficult to work out what I wanted to do, but ultimately I came up with my decision, which you can see if you watch that playthrough. But what I'm going to be talking about today is, was Dettlaff wrong? So what did Dettlaff do? Essentially, he summoned a horde of vampires to massacre an entire city because he was tricked by a girl and felt very unhappy. So yeah, obviously that sounds pretty wrong on the surface and there's not much kind of wiggle room there, but there's actually a lot more context to this situation that I think provides a little bit more insight into why this happened and shows that although what he did is, I think, indisputably wrong, who is exactly to blame is perhaps a little bit more nuanced. So the story of Dettlaff and also this other character I'm going to introduce is quite long and there's a lot you can talk about with each of them, but for the purpose of this video I'm just going to start from where they met. So the story of Dettlaff and a woman known as Syanna begins when they met in Metina, and this was while Syanna was visiting a local fence to, I don't know, sell something or something like that. So she saw him in this shop, she followed him, and then he realized she was following her because he's a higher vampire and, you know, I mean, they're not going to not notice someone following them, and he basically stops, he turns around, he bares his fangs at her, and she isn't scared at all. And from there they meet a few more times, they become romantically involved, but then Dettlaff becomes a little bit too intense, and I mean, we can see from the games he does not have a good way to control his emotions. If something happens and he doesn't like it, he goes kind of insane, and then he calms down, he's like, oh, that was maybe a bit too far, but you know what, that was it. So he's the same with love. He was probably very, very intense with her, wanting to see her all the time, wanting to know what she's doing, that kind of thing. He's essentially the crazy boyfriend, I guess, in this case, but dialed up about 1,000. So eventually she left him because of this. She didn't tell him anything, she just left, and the reason she didn't tell him is because she was legitimately scared that he would kill her if she wanted to just be friends again, because, as we said before, he's not very good at controlling his emotions, so you can debate whether it was good or not that she just left him and didn't say anything, but you could argue that she was genuinely concerned for her safety. And also, maybe by not having that conversation, she could have saved his feelings a little bit, I don't know. But I think where the story changes significantly is from this point, as then she does some stuff that is obviously not in his best interests and actually leads to this entire situation. So Syanna returned to Toussaint as she was a banished member of the ruling family of the duchy and decided that she wanted to kill all of those that had wronged her in the past, because Syanna was one of these children that was born under the curse of the Black Sun, and for her entire life she was treated as if she was this kind of monster, and you know, she had this part of her that she couldn't control that was evil. And there's this argument, at least with the Curse of the Black Sun, that children become evil because of the way they were treated, but then also people think that they're just evil naturally, and it's really hard to tell exactly which it is. Could be a mixture of both, could literally just be that they're treated horribly. But when she was banished, there was a particular instance where her and her sister had decided to throw fish bladders filled with suet at a Nilfgaardian envoy's bald patch, and then her sister, which was Anna Henrietta, who's, at least in The Witcher 3, the sort of leader of the Duchy of Toussaint, decided to light them on fire, and she was, well, Syanna was blamed for it, then she was banished, then she was treated horribly by all these people, they thought she was going to die, they left her in this forest, essentially just to die, and then she survived, and so on, met Dettlaff. So that's her kind of story there. But yeah, getting back a bit to the Dettlaff thing, so she returned to Toussaint, she wanted to kill all these people that had wronged her, and you can debate whether her killing those that essentially ruined her life is wrong or right. Some people might think, yep, she has that right. Some people might be like, no, no one has a right to kill anyone. But, you know, you can debate that. But what is definitely wrong is what her method was of doing so. So she pretended to be kidnapped and sent a letter to Dettlaff, knowing what he would do if she believed she was in danger, and essentially she sent this letter, said to Dettlaff, I've kidnapped your beautiful girlfriend, kill these people, then she'll be free. So she essentially blackmailed him into killing people he did not want to kill after leaving him. So it's obviously not a good thing she did there. So then that gets us to essentially what happens in the game, and we can see throughout playing the game from Dettlaff's point of view that he did not actually want to kill these people, and in fact he sometimes developed that kind of strong emotional attachment to them, but still had to kill them. Then he did things like cut off his own hand because he was so angry. So from Dettlaff's point of view, he was doing all of this to save the woman he loved, when in fact he was just killing people for a woman who had essentially no interest in him at this point, other than the fact that he was able to kill people quite effectively. So the story continues. Syanna is taking advantage of a bunch of people to get what she wants, which yet again you can argue is okay, because she wants to sort of get back at her family, but then she's using people, which is not okay. So yeah, yet again a whole debate there. But later in the story, Dettlaff uncovers the truth and gives the ultimatum to Syanna that they can either meet at Teşekkür, or he will unleash a horde of vampires on Beauclair, which is the capital of Tucson. Syanna fails to show up at the designated time, and Dettlaff unleashes the horde. He kills many, many more innocents than just the 5 victims he was asked to kill, and later in the story, he can either kill Syanna, or he can be killed. So the question many players have is, what is the right decision in this instance? Because it feels like Dettlaff's response was incredibly disproportionate. He went from being this guy that was getting used to thinking, right, okay, you know what, you used me, I'm gonna kill hundreds of people. It's like, well okay, that's a bit much, but that's what's the difference between humans and vampires, and especially with Dettlaff. I don't think vampires view human life as that sort of important on an individual scale, well, on a mass scale actually maybe, but when they actually know people, they care about that person or that person or that person. They don't care about like, oh, I killed thousands of people, I don't care, I don't know who they are, or whatever it is. But if it's individuals, they really do seem to care. So that's the difference, and you could argue whether or not you'd want that sort of thing existing in the world anyway, so yeah, that's another debate. But I think what it really comes down to, if we're going to take this from our general human view of ethics, the best way I can sort of conglomerate it all, because there's a lot of different views of ethics, but I think obviously Dettlaff is in the wrong in regard to his response. He killed led to the killing of hundreds of people because he sort of wanted to get his own back on Syanna a bit and wanted to sort of blackmail her into essentially agreeing to die in a way, because he could have just killed her in the moment he found out, but he was like, right, meet me here. And I think that was him saying, like, I'm gonna make you own up to this. You're gonna own up to what you've done, you're gonna come and meet me, and then you have to go with whatever I decide. I'm not gonna do what you decide. And yeah, you can understand that, but it's the killing of the hundreds of innocents that makes it wrong. But then you can look at it from this point of view, which is that essentially it was all caused by Syanna anyway. So she left Dettlaff and used him, she lied to him, she didn't meet him at Teşekkür when he initially requested, when she could have just said, right, okay, I'm owning up to it, I'll go and meet him. But she didn't. Eventually she can, and then, you know, whatever happens there is whatever. But if she'd met him initially, the hundreds of people wouldn't have died. But then his decision to kill the hundreds of people, so it's a very debated thing. And then you could also look at it even further back and be like, well, when Syanna was a child, all these people were horrible to her, so maybe it's their fault. And then I think you can go back far enough with anything, but it's working out exactly what is the best thing to do, I think, moving forward a lot of the time. So the question does become, do you let Syanna die and Dettlaff live, or do you kill them both because they both did bad things? Or, you know, what is it that you should sort of do? And that's why it's one of the hardest decisions in The Witcher 3, at least for me. It's something that I'm like, what do I do here? What is the solution? I think a lot of the time there is not a solution that is just absolutely perfect. I think you just have to go with whatever you think is the most right solution, because yeah, maybe you decide you want to let Dettlaff live, so Syanna has to die in that instance. So you let Dettlaff live, Syanna dies, he goes off with Regis is happy, who's your friend, and you care about him, and then you just hope that nothing happens again. Or you let Syanna live, you play the game in the certain way where she doesn't end up doing even more bad stuff, which can happen, and then you hope that eventually she sort of finds peace with that in the future. Or you just let them both die and think, you know what, they both did bad things, I'm just gonna let this play out. And it's a very difficult decision, but I think that's something that you just have to consider, and you got to think about all these considerations when you make your own decisions. And what I'd like to say is that I did say this briefly before, but what Dettlaff did was wrong, but he is not a human. And I think the best way to explain this is with a story that Regis told the player, which is about the Brute of Lyria, which was this fiend that killed 200 people. Dettlaff didn't really care. He was in the area, he just thought, oh, whatever, you know, 200 people died. I mean, you got to think about it from a vampire's point of view. Humans have killed them significantly more than maybe, I don't know, but they've killed a lot of vampires. And maybe they think, well, if humans die, vampires die, whatever, you know, why should I care? But what happened was a boy that gave Dettlaff an apple and didn't ask for anything in return was one of these victims. And then suddenly he really cared and just killed it. And then he saved all the humans after that, whatever, he did a great service for them. But it wasn't from this sort of like, I want to save human life, it was just because it was that guy. Well, that boy, I guess. And it's the same with Syanna, it's like he doesn't care about the people of Beauclair, he just cared about her. And that's why you could say he's emotionally unstable, which is true in a human sense, but from a vampire sense, is that something that is necessarily like a crazy thing? Most vampires, you know, they have to have human blood. So the conclusion I always come to, which is probably why I end up doing what I always seem to decide when I do my proper Witcher 3 playthrough with my decisions, is I generally, as much as I disagree with it on a lot of levels, and I think it's annoying that Syanna can essentially sort of get away with it, I let Dettlaff die. I guess as the player you kill him and you save her, because it's better to have at least one live, I suppose. But I think the reason I generally go for that is, as a Witcher, you want to remove threats, and Dettlaff in the future could be a massive threat. If he's this unstable in human terms, he could essentially just, you know, something happens again in the future and he kills 100 people, and if you have an instance to sort of stop that, I feel like it's kind of a Witcher's responsibility to do that, and that doesn't make Dettlaff a monster, but it just makes him incredibly dangerous for life in general. So I think that's why I generally go with it. It's not good for Regis, it's not good for all this stuff, but for me that is the greater good in that instance. I don't want to sort of completely commit to that, but that's what I generally go with. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think. I'd love to hear what position you have. I want to clarify, I do not support Syanna in any way. I think that, yeah, she had a difficult time when she was younger and stuff, but it doesn't excuse the horrible things that she did to others as well, so I don't support that, really. I mean, it's a very, very complicated decision in the game, and it's really well made. I really like that part of The Witcher 3, so I'd love to hear what you guys think. I want to know what decisions you guys generally go for. It's really interesting to know the sort of reasoning other people have when they make these decisions, so let me know. Please like the video if you want to see more, subscribe if you want to see more videos as well. It really does help the channel and I really, really appreciate it. Follow me on the social medias and stuff, check out all the other stuff. I'll put a thing in the, maybe the pinned comment or the description, something like that. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Have an awesome rest of the week.